Figured I'd make a video on polishing. I do some polishing, but I've also subbed it out to a guy that really makes a great mirror finish end product. But I've done a little research to kind of improve my methods, so I'm gonna try it out on a few pieces I've collected to see how good I can get my finished polishing product to turn out. I just use a Harbor Freight 6-inch polisher. I'll show you some of the parts and stuff that I've been collecting. So I just kind of, over the last few weeks, just been kind of searching for parts and pieces that I know are, you know, in my builds are critical to find. Some of the bikes that I get are incomplete rollers, and these are kind of the parts that you need to make sure that you can find OEM without being overpriced. So I just collect them when I can. So I've been collecting the Z50 handlebar mounts. I got quite a handful of frames that don't have the mounts, so I've been able to acquire some of those. Air boxes, other items to find. I do CT70, so I always look for the pull starts. A lot of the bikes get those pulled off, and just good thing to collect before they, if you're on eBay, this stuff can be like super expensive. And then I got some early CT70, early Z50 solid mounts. So I'm gonna take one of these. I'll pick one of these mounts here to do my polishing with to see how good I can get it. What I've come up with is, in addition to those cotton pads that I have on my buffer already, I'm gonna try and utilize one of these setups here that are a little more abrasive. So this has like some sort of Scotch-Brite material plus some flap style sandpaper in between those. So I'm going to try and use those to kind of do a conditioning of the aluminum before we get to those final polishing steps. I also bought some 3M discs that will go on that benchtop buffer too. These are just the Scotch-Brite pads. So I'm just going to kind of see this versus this, see kind of what the results are. You know, the other steps that some people may use is some wet sanding, like a Dremel tool. So I'm just trying to find the most efficient way to process the aluminum and get the mirror finish result without spending all these hours of laborious time getting to that end product. These are some bar handles, top mount plate that I've worked on with just the cotton pads on that benchtop buffer. Came out pretty good, but I know there's more that can be brought out on these aluminum pieces, so that's why I'm gonna try out and experiment with those other parts I just showed you and see kind of, you know, the differences I can make with introducing a few of those new polishing techniques. So just to clarify a little more, my steps that I've been using to do the aluminum polishing is sometimes I'll take that aluminum part, use the vapor honer. This is my VHC micro honer. I just got a small little vapor honer, but it works for what I do. Sometimes I might even use the dry blaster first to get some of the buildup off some of these aluminum parts, and then finish it with a vapor honer, and then I would come over and use my Harbor Freight bench polisher, and it's just a standard cotton wheel with the sewn fibers, and then I use a brown rouge you can get over at Harbor Freight. So this is the starting polish, and then bring it over to the unsewn cotton discs and use the white rouge. Again, you can get that over at Harbor Freight. She comes in like a pack like this, is a good deal. I have some smaller wheels that you can use on a drill, but so what I'm gonna do is add those extra discs, like the 3M disc and the flap disc with the abrasive material in it, and see, you know, if I get better results in the end. So we'll just start. I'm going to pull off my disc here. Cotton pad. So this is the mount that I chose to try out on. I'm not going to do any vapor honing or pre-media blasting on it. I'm just going to go ahead and see if the flap wheel disc will work pretty good to clean it up, and then go on to the next steps. So this rotates counterclockwise, and these are going to want to be oriented so that they are not, well, that's probably the way I want to do it, so I'm actually going to put that on that way. Might need to make a spacer because there is some play on this, so might need a spacer for that disc. So that flap disc is going to need a spacer. I'm going to have to figure that out. So we'll just we'll start with the 3M Scotch-Brite pad without the flap sandpaper inside of it.
Dad.
Yeah.
Here's, where are you?
Here, I'm making a video, so let me do this. Oh, what is that? Just put that down.
It's a car.
This one's going to need a few spacers too, so let me get that figured out and then we'll roll with it. Alright, you can see how many times I've taken this apart. So they have these hats that go on, which I overlooked, so put those on so it gets a squeeze on the pad itself. Just tighten our nut back on. Okay. Just make sure everything's out of the way. Guess you probably don't want to wear gloves with something like this. Obviously, it can get caught in there and cause you some harm, so no gloves for me. Kind of see how this works. So this is like using sandpaper, but I'm using a machine to do it now. It's giving it a pretty good, like, satin polish finish right off the bat. Looks pretty good already. It's a huge difference. I'm barely giving it any pressure right now. Cleaning this part up pretty good right here. This had some surface rust on it. You know, this is kind of like a pressed in, cast in steel part in there, so a little rust builds up in that area. So let's just do a quick demo on this part here. Satin finish on there. So let me just finish up the part here, and then we'll take a look at what happens, or what it looks like with the 3M pad.